to these items because there's a lot of at stake for those individuals who are currently on the list. And that although I would have liked to have the and even though I am not able to express my vote separately on item 4, I think the entire item is too important to vote down just because of the question on the policy regarding the assigned time as it affects one or more programs.
Any other comments?
And I will be asking for a separate agenda item on the other issues when we come to that time on the agenda.
All right, please vote. Trustee?
Yeah.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, now we go to item 12F, changes in contract service. And we have Mr. Bill Kimmett who would like to speak to this one.
Usually I don't use notes, but I'm glad I took notes because I've almost fallen asleep. And don't start yet, I haven't started. Don't start for 3 minutes. I might go a little bit over.
Well, we might cry.
No, you're not. First, I wanted to thank the board. One of the things that you've allowed me to do over the last 12 years is, and I had to count them up. I don't always think about it. You allowed me to be in 7 different administrative positions on this campus. You've promoted me and demoted me so many times that you probably can't remember, which job I have when I was up there. Currently, today I'm the dean of this beautiful place, and we want to welcome you to our meeting. It's also funny that the last few times that we've been here, there's always been a ton of controversy, and it's June, it's supposed to not be. You guys figure out a way to make it nicer for the people that are visiting maybe. Since I have 3 minutes, I'm going to give some advice to the board, which is kind of fun. Chris, you're the new student trustee. I think you're not going to be a quiet waffler. I think that one of the things that's important to remember is, although all the people that sit at the table think about students, you're the only one that really represents students, and you need to understand that that's a big responsibility, and I think you probably do. Next, I'll give you some advice, and I think you're trying to, and bless your heart. Some of the things you say are absolutely smack on, but it takes you so long to get through them. Honest, and I watch not only the audience roll their eyes, but your colleagues roll their eyes, and I think Yolanda actually fell asleep during one of them. So, and that really and truly, I think you need to. And I think you're trying. I'm watching you tonight, and I think you're trying to do that. So. I'm not going to do individuals. For the rest of you, I think one of the things that would be really a good thing, and I know it's not part of the current protocols, you need to develop some communication with the deans and the program directors on our campus. Because you guys have been hiring and firing presidents, and the vice presidents have been a revolving door with different degrees of competency. That group of academic deans have held the administration of this college together. And I think that they have some insights that would be beneficial for all of you. Dr. Chopra, people would be surprised if you and I share some leadership styles that they would probably not see that. We're both fiscal conservatives. I think you've shown that in every job that you've had, including this one. And I am too. One of the things that people don't know is because they always question this, more income than it costs to operate. Okay, I'm going to keep chasing you. Okay. And the other thing is, Dr. Chopra and I, we're both somewhat charming. and frankly, I've seen you in the community, and you're way slicker than I am. You're much more charming in public than I am. So I've got a little bit to work on, but as a faculty, I don't have to be quite as charming. I think what separates our leadership styles are 2 things that you wrote about in your book in 1987. And I read the whole book cover to cover. I'm probably the only one besides you in here that read it. You've kind of gotten away from these 2 items, and I think you need to revisit it. One thing, divergent opinions are actually a good thing. You can find that in your book. I know you'll think back and remember. Because with that divergent opinions, you develop a synergy in problem solving that one person can't do on their own. And I think that you've made some attempts very recently in the budget crisis to get back to that philosophy, and I think that that's really, really good. The other thing is that people really do matter. I read some things in your book about people and finding people and getting people in the right place, and people always talk about getting the right people on the bus. Every man, woman, student, clerk, college vice president deserves to be treated with dignity and respect.
That's right.
As do my colleagues in the faculty, so does the president and superintendent. Okay. In closing, and I thank you for letting me go over, I really appreciate it. I have to thank my Heck family. They're an amazing group. They never shy from the challenge. I want to make an announcement. The most senior person, Pearl, don't cry. The most senior person after I leave will be Pearl Hinsman. And she announced to us today that she's expecting their first child. I told her today she's going to be one of the best moms ever. I have to do a special, and I'll use my colleague, shout out to my main man, Andre. We've had some battles going back and forth. I'm going to get myself in trouble with HR, and he's going to get in trouble with his union. He will do anything to make it work. And this gentleman works outside of his job description almost every single day. And you know, the saving grace of moving back to Backland, understand I was offered a position that I really don't feel that's a good fit for me. And keeping my current position didn't seem to be on the table. So I exercised my rights to retreat from the faculty, which is something that I love to do. Teaching is what I do. But staff, don't worry, at least in the short term. Chris Perry, my friend, will guide you. She's a non-fearing straight shooter, just like your old leader. That gets you in trouble sometimes, but it's well worth it. People need to know where you stand and what you believe in. And I'm pretty proud that I'm always able to look myself in the mirror. And again, I want to thank you for the opportunities you've given me, and I'm looking forward to changing lives instead of one center at a time, one student at a time. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, now Ms. Salcido.
I just wanted to go ahead and say to Bill, thank you very much. Were you CFO also?
No, that's the only one they wouldn't trust me with all that money.
I want to personally thank you for having been so flexible. I know that we plucked you out of National City several times, and you very willingly or not willingly went and held some very tough positions. And for that, I want to personally thank you. I think that our loss to the administration, but I think it's a gain for Terry Davis. And I'm sure that
Don't know about that. I'm getting bail.
that definitely you'll be an asset in that department. So thank you very much. And not only for your service, but also for the students that are going to have a great teacher. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would also like to thank you, Bill, for all of the work and all the different positions you've held, and then for your good attitude that you've had throughout all these years. Thank you for your service. And good luck with your teaching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Nick? The Nick wanted to speak.
Nick's gonna move to eliminate the PE department, so we get back at my comment about.
On the contrary, I appreciate the forthrightness, and it's really difficult for anyone, especially public official, to get honest feedback. And whenever I get it, whether it's in public or in private, I appreciate it. So thank you very much. And I'm trying. But it's hard to break the habit of an attorney who's used to detail. But I keep promising Dr. Chopra that I'm trying.
Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Daniels, Dr. Daniels.
Bill, it's when you work in an institution, in the final analysis, it's the people and how they feel about you when you leave that really tells the tale. It's quite evident to me here, and the folks at the HEC, that they love you, Bill. And I want to thank you for your service to the district. It's been your life, basically, and I really appreciate that. I haven't known you for more than a couple of years now, and I hope we can continue our relationship in our golf teams, because you're the only guy I know that
That you can beat.
Thank you so much.
And Bill, thank you from me as well. You've been really an inspiration for me. I turn to you many times when I get concerned or confused, and I really appreciate you allowing us to put you in different positions when we really, really needed somebody there, and we could always call on you, and your positive attitude has been just so appreciated. And I look out in the audience every board meeting, and I see you and your bright smile on your face, and I do hope you continue to come to the meetings, because I really need you.
Probably not.
I told you there would be tears. I'm sorry if I cried, but I really will miss you. But I do hope that you will return, and I hope that we can keep in contact, and I'll be out of the PE department to see what you're doing.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you. And let's see, do we need to vote here? Please vote on this accepting the approval of the changes in the contract.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
And aye. And at this point, I think we all need to take about a 5-minute break, so we'll take a recess. Okay, all board members present? Okay, we're on resignations, retirements on item 12G. The following staff members will retire or resign effective as indicated, and the resignations, retirement has been accepted by the superintendent president under delegation of powers. So we have Susan Schoenrock, who is retiring, professor of nursing, and Michael Pompa, professor of science, exercise and science, School of Health, Exercise Science and Athletics. And then 12H, we have a voluntary early retirement continuation of service pursuant to Article 7, Section 7.9. The following academic employee is eligible for and requests participation in the voluntary early retirement continuation of service program for the 2009-10 academic year. Michael Pompa, professor of School of Health, Exercise Science and Athletics. Do I hear a motion on 12G and 12H?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I'm sorry.
12G and 12H.
12G and 12H. Discussion?
Discussion.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Call the question?
Okay, please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Okay, motion passes, all saying aye. Item 13, Human Resources classified items A through E. Classified reemployment list, 13A, 13B, 39-month reemployment status.
I move on 13B through 13B.
Second.
Discussion?
Individual discussion on the classified transactions like we get on the academic transactions.
Right,
Mr. Aguilar, yes?
clarification, because these are separate items, and I'd like to separate out 12C or and 13C for a separate vote, and so I guess I'm asking for direction from the parliamentarian and/or the legal counsel as to the appropriateness of mentioning all these together when they're separate items, listed as separate items in the agenda.
Well, we can pull them up, yeah.
Madam Chair, the appropriate motion would be again to divide the question in order to separate A, B, D, and E from C.
And I will make that motion.
He made the motion.
Motion to separate out item 13C.
Motion to divide the question.
To divide the question and treat 13C separately from the other items.
And that will require a second, and it's not debatable.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, then it's not debatable, right?
So, yes, ma'am, go directly to a vote.
So then we'll go directly to a vote.
Yes.
Dr. Davis, are you
Did
thinking?
you vote already? Yes.
Mrs. Salcido? No. And, no, so that would be 3-2. So motion passes,
Motion failed.
motion fails. Okay? So then we go back to the original motion, which we, Mrs. Salcido, you said 13A, B, C, D, and E.
Any discussion?
And then there's discussion, any discussion on that.
Right, for item 13C, are these transactions, I'm sorry, I can't read my own handwriting, in compliance with applicable labor law and bargaining contracts, and vis-a-vis the using temporary employees for short-term employees for ongoing, in place of taking work from permanent employees by hiring short-term employees and rehiring short-term employees serially.
Okay, Dr. Schultz, did you answer that?
Could you repeat your question, please?
Are the short-term approvals that are being recommended to the board in compliance with applicable law, specifically labor law, and the collective bargaining contracts vis-a-vis taking work from permanent employees through short-term employment and hiring these short-term employees on a serial basis, renewing the contract before they can get tenure or they can get permanent status.
I think these individuals are not on contract, these are hourly.
No, I understand, but in terms of, let me rephrase the question. The practice of hiring short-term employees and specifically with those employees. So two questions. One, the practice of using short-term employment. Are we doing that in conformance with applicable law and applicable collective bargaining contracts?
In answer to your question, yes, the use of these hourlies are within Ed Code 88003.
Could the layoff of employees, could laid-off employees have given them the opportunity to take positions that are being offered here?
Is this a legal question that should be going to our council?
Well, I'll put it to the president, and let him decide who he wants to delegate it to.
I would like to delegate it to our legal counsel.
Okay, that'll do.
I hate to duck the question, but I have not been asked to review the propriety of these. I know that Mr. Kearns is well aware of the applicable law. I presume that he studied it in advance of making his decisions. The board would like me to review these matters, and I certainly will.
Well, in light of, and then a follow-up question to that, because there's been public testimony alleging that there have been practices in connection with this area that are not in compliance with the law. So is the board now on notice of a possible violation of law that should be followed up? And and without respect to that, given that that information has been presented to me as a board member, I certainly would be remiss in not asking at least a due diligence inquiry into that matter to make sure that we are, in fact, either inadvertently or otherwise not complying with the applicable law with respect to short-term employees or temporary employees, either hiring them serially to avoid giving them permanent status, or in violation of collective bargaining unit agreements.
I'm not in a position right now to bless or say that there's anything that we're on notice of that suggests that it's illegal.
Mr. Kearns?
I do not believe that we're in violation of the bargaining unit contract or any ed code violations.
No, I honestly, yeah, there's no question in my mind that you don't believe that. Because if you did believe that and you still proposed that you would be in deep trouble. It's not your belief, and I know that you do this in good faith, but I don't expect that you, or for that matter, the general counsel, as you just expressed, to know every code section that applies to our business. But there has been information presented to this board raising questions about that. And so I am just doing my due diligence as a board member to make sure that we're not engaged or approving anything that may violate the law.
There's nothing that precludes the board from actually taking action on the item as proposed. There will be comments made on every agenda item. There will be comments made in favor. There will be comments made that are in opposition to it. The board has delegated this responsibility to the president, the VP of HR, but we're not on notice of anything tonight that precludes the board from acting.
Mrs. Salcedo?
Thank you.
Would like to comment?
I'm just going to, Mr. Kearns, if I can just ask you a question on this. And in reference to also the comments that were previously stated. My understanding is that if in fact we go into cutting positions, then there is, and if we, let's say if we go ahead and go massive cutting positions, there is the bumping rise, there is that the first people to, or employees to go ahead and be released, we would be looking at the hourly employees, just like the adjunct faculty, that when we go ahead and hire the adjunct faculty is because there's a need for them. The same thing with the hourly employees, but when in fact we go into looking into this massive budget problem that we have, then the hourly employees will be something that we would be looking at right away.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes.
Just for clarification, or I know we're talking about making all these cuts coming up soon. As a student, I've looked for a lot of internships and I found so many, but they're all unpaid. And I'm just wondering why. I mean, I know these people are very important, but I'm just wondering why we have so many paid internships right now with our current budget situation. And I'm wondering if maybe when we're talking about the budget cuts, if that's going to come up, that maybe some of these could be unpaid and we wouldn't have to worry about this money.
Basically, those interns that are listed there are all grant positions, and those are duties that were included in part of the grant.
Dr. Meadows, did you know?
No, I just.
You're just throwing papers around? All right, any other comments? All right, please vote.
Yes.
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye, 4 votes with 1 abstention, all passing. Now we go to, let's see, we are now on item 14, District 5-Year Construction Plan 2011 to 2015.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, discussion? All right, please vote.
Aye.
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 Aye, all right, all voted aye. Motion passes. Number 15, facilities. Awarded bids and RFPs, 1521, 52, and 53. Do I hear a motion?
Move approval.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I had a question, but since it's only my question, it won't take time here. I'll just ask John to explain the unit cost of business. We don't have to take time here. You can explain to me later.
All right, let John assign it later. All right, please vote.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Aye, motion passes, all saying aye. Item 16, approval of agreements, cost of district, items A through C. Do I hear approval?
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry, 16A, we withdrew, so it's A 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, 7. Okay? So,
Move approval of items 16, A 1 through 4.
and then 6.
For right now, my motion is just, I'm sorry, can't.
Just one.
We separate this motion and separate out item 16, A5.
That's been withdrawn.
That's been withdrawn.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, that's, withdraw that and move approval on all items.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, please vote.
Yes.
Trustee?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes all voting aye. 16B, Human Resources. Agreement with Johnson Associates, enclosure, and it's B1 and B2, agreement with Lieber, Cassidy, Whitmore, and enclosure on those as well. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, I have a question on that one.
Okay.
I'd like to address it to staff. Who's the appropriate staff on 816B1 regarding job analysis audit? Is that you?
Mr. Kearns?
Is this a, why don't you just, that was all the ball I just suggest you leave them all there. Is this one of those, is this a classification type study, or is it different?
It's different, actually. We have a need to look at job descriptions. Johnson and Associates has worked with the district for a number of years. They're very familiar with our job descriptions. And so in the news that we're making any changes to job descriptions to maintain the integrity of our current positions.
Who's just this company makes recommendations? Do they do so by going out on campus and speaking to the individuals and?
Yes, for example, during our annual process, they are part of that, and they actually have met with the employees. They have a better understanding of their job duties.
So it's entirely possible that they talk to someone and they can say, you know, you need to be doing more.
Because when
See,
the,
I'm curious because usually these kinds of studies have to do with reclassification and involves, more money or that kind of thing. And this just sounds like they're just gonna go out and see what people are doing, for what reason.
will, for example, if through the annual reclassification process, a representative from Johnson Associates sits with the district, they're not meeting with the individual alone by any means. So they'll ask them, answer any technical questions for us. In addition to that, they'll assist us with any job description that we develop and revise.
That one I can see.
Does that answer your question?
No, I'm still, so this firm consults with the district with regard to job descriptions.
That's correct.
And that information is used when it comes time to do the reclassification.
Can be used for reclassification.
Is this kind of a study something that you include other faculty? I mean, John, do these folks, Johnson and Johnson, do they include faculty in their research, or how do they ascertain what the job description includes?
Well, they'll work, of course, they'll do their studies, for example, the market analysis studies, they'll compare to other colleges or related work, as well as here on campus.
So they take the job descriptions we already have and compare them to other institutions?
That's where they can compare our job descriptions, well, actually from other colleges also to our job descriptions based on our needs.
I have a follow-up question. Like, why are we doing it now? Is it a requirement? Is it something that we think needs to be done? Or is it part of the global reclass and follow-up?
Not part of the global, by any means. The contract, within the CSEA contract, for example, there is a provision for an annual reclassification, and that takes place each spring, and then obviously we need the assistance with Johnson and Associates to hold it together.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, please vote. We're voting on B1 and B2.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes all ayes. All right, 16C, Student Affairs, and we have C1 through C8.
Move on 16C1 through 8.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All right, please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes all saying aye.
That was awfully fast on discussion, but we'll go ahead and go forward.
Is you want discussion?
Well, no, it's kind of too late now.
Voted on it.
I guess you want to be out of here by 10, right?
About 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, item 17, approval of agreements, income, no cost to district, and items A through B, 17A and 17B.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All right, please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye, on items 17 and 82, passed. Student, let's see, 17B, student affairs, 17B1.
We voted on it.
Yeah, we
Did you
voted
on
on it.
that one? Okay, see,
A and B.
We're,
I forgot
We're on
it's
18.
we're in 18.
I said 102, okay. Item 18, adopt resolutions, there's an enclosure. Recommend adoptions of the resolutions listed below. Resolution for delegation of authority to approve bids and contracts, there's an enclosure.
Move on 18.
Okay,
Second.
discussion?
Yes.
Okay, Senator?
Right, under discussion, first, I was under the impression that needed to have a board policy in place before we could delegate, give this kind of delegation. Am I wrong on that?
It's fair to say that I think we have a general policy, but there's nothing dealing with delegation just generally. But there's nothing that precludes the board from just adopting an annual resolution specifying under the law, because you'll see in the resolution, the enclosure, it references the applicable ed code sections. So essentially, this is the resolution as to how the board is following the law.
There's a reference, you know, what we're asked is to the rule. So, and the response from staff was that this resolution is the rule. Is that the case?
The resolution is how responsibility to enter into contracts to purchase supplies and equipment.
Yeah, but is that the rule that is referred to in the ed code
Yes,
section?
that is the rule. The board is permitted to establish the rule by resolution.
Okay, that was my, thank you.
Any other discussion?
One more follow-up question. So, at what point are there procedures, or are there procedures as to the criteria that is to be used in the exercise of this authority? Or does this give, the only criteria then is the statutory requirements for the exercise of this delegation?
Well, yeah, if you're raising a point, would it be appropriate to have an administrative regulation as far as how the authority is supposed to be wielded and used?
Right.
Okay. That certainly is within the prerogative of the board to do that. However, the resolution, in the beginning of the resolution, it goes through the applicable law, explains what the obligations are of the district, cites those, and then essentially gives the president, you know, authority up to $100,000 for entering into contracts, either the president, superintendent president, or designee, and then also authorizes the president to purchase supplies, equipment, materials up to the statutory minimum bid amount, which I think is about what, $76,000. $76,000. So essentially, what we've done is we've taken the applicable law and put it into the resolution, and are calling upon the board to approve the resolution, to update it as necessary every year.
So, I actually wasn't asking about an administrative regulation because I assume that that's within the purview of the president to do that. And what the board can do is adopt a policy or not. And you're saying that this resolution, it has the force of a policy.
Yes, it's the rule.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Need anything else? All right, please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes, all said aye. 19, number 19, adopt district policies. This is the second reading, and there's an enclosure. As part of the ongoing review and revision of the Southwestern College District Policy and Procedures Manual, the following policy appears before the governing board for adoption. Recommend adoption of the district policy listed below, policy number 7600, district policy, or district police department, their enclosure. This policy was presented for first reading on May 13th, 2009. This is a new policy.
Move on 19.
Do I have a second? A second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Okay, please vote.
I have.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Be so quick with that discussion. I'll get us out of here by 10.
Oh, you're weird.
I'm just a little bit, I don't know, curious as to why don't we have a policy committee that's doing work on policies? How come we only have one policy on whether you ought to smoke or not? Should there be like more policies? Aren't there more important policies that we need to address?
This is the police department.
This
This is 19.
Oh, okay. I was still on tobacco. Which one's that?
That's first reading.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
This is 19,
Never
item
mind.
19.
I got it.
This policy was presented as first reading on May 13th, and this is a new policy. And this is, Cito, you have something to say?
Is there smoking one?
Well, they're okay.
Wait a minute. I already voted on it?
Oh, it's just
First reading.
Oh, I got it.
It's
Okay.
coming.
All right.
I have a, yes. Yes, it's on the district police department policy.
Yes.
I just have a comment, and where's our, I can defer this to our chief of police, Madam President. And it's in reference to the first paragraph, where, and I'm going to go ahead and read that to you. It says, "The police department shall have jurisdiction to enforce the law on or near the Chula Vista campus, educational centers, other facilities or property zone," on and on and on, "are administered by the district." One of the questions that I have is, and I think I'm having some issue with the way that it's written, on or near the Chula Vista campus, which implies that we can go into the city streets and the neighborhood area to go ahead and enforce the law. I just want to go ahead and get a clarification, because one of the, God forbid, for us to ever get into a position where we have to go into a city area to be able to enforce the law. Because within our police department, the jurisdiction is only within, so to speak, within the four corners of the document, our campus area. And I just want to be assured that our officers are not or will enforce the law within the city limits, that our officers only stay within our district property. And because we can get into just an incredible amount of issues, and as other campuses and other areas, other police departments specifically, when they have been on off-duty and they get into the trying to enforce the law on their own. So that is my question to you, as to if you can clarify that for me, and so I can get clarified in my head. Thank you.
The reason that it's important is because we've had several cases where crimes have occurred on campus, and the suspects of the crimes, when the police have tried to apprehend them, have led us off campus. And it is our responsibility as a duly appointed police department to apprehend those people. So if we said that we couldn't go past, let's say, the end of the driveway, then what would happen is the people who are committing crimes on our campus would go free, basically, if we weren't able to pursue them.
Okay, I have a real issue with that. And the fact is that if, let's say, specifically at the main campus, if they were to go ahead and get into a high-speed chase because you're chasing someone specifically into the Old Thai Road, I think that the police, the Chula Vista Police or San Diego PD or whatever it may be, whatever jurisdiction we're in, whether it be here in National City or Chula Vista or San Diego, that we don't get into a chasing of a suspect into city streets, that we contain our law enforcement within the district and not getting into, going out and chasing a suspect into the
Well, we
city
have
street.
a policy in place that requires supervisory permission to go into a high-speed pursuit, as most agencies do. Our policy falls in line with that. It would have to be something critical for us to do that. And we would only do it as long as, until Chula Vista, for instance, Chula Vista Police were on scene, and then they would take over the pursuit from us. And we would trail, because we were the originating agency. But the other reason that, we travel from site to site, and those officers have to have the ability to enforce the law should they see something critical happening in front of them, or should somebody wave them down and ask them for assistance. If they're not able to act under the law that every other police department does, it basically puts everybody in jeopardy. And we have not done that in the past, but you
Yeah.
need to have that ability.
Well, I'll go ahead and ask legal counsel, because what I'm talking about is a huge liability to this district. So if we're playing cop out there on company time, then what is happening is that we are at risk. So let's assume that one of our officers is out there trying to stop a DUI offender because he happens to be a police officer at our district. Then that is not, in my opinion, that is not the responsibility of that officer. That is the responsibility of the police department within that jurisdiction. So we are not providing law enforcement to our cities, and that's what the issue that I'm having with. If you can just hold on, let me go ahead and
Just to add hopefully a helpful point of clarification. I also, when I looked at that and saw the words or near, I was like, where did that come from? And then if you look at education code section that's cited in there, it actually mirrors that same phrase. The law also says the college chief of police may employ personnel as necessary to enforce the law on or near their campus. How the board establishes, or how the chief establishes, how we maintain and actually police our jurisdiction, I think that is somewhat of a discretionary call. But as far as policy goes, it very closely mirrors Education Code Section 7233F.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And then I do have concern about that, and specifically with your statements right now, that our police officers can go out there and whatever they see there's a violation, they need to stop. That is not our...
Well, you may be misunderstanding me. My orders to my officers are that we don't go out and do Chula Vista or National City or San Diego Police job. We do patrol the perimeter of our sites, for instance, Chula Vista, in order to get from parking lot to parking lot route on the street and so forth. But we're not out there to, say, enforce traffic violations and do those types of things. What I was referring to is, let's say that an officer is en route from Chula Vista to this site, to National City, and they're on the freeway, and a lady is broken down on the side and sees the officer and waves the officer down, and there's, let's say she's the victim of a domestic violence. I'm just giving you this as an example. That officer would be required, any officer of any jurisdiction would be required to do something at that point, to take some kind of law enforcement action until the agency of jurisdiction got there, which would be National City or Chula or Highway Patrol or whoever.
Okay.
But we don't go out and seek out things that are happening outside of the district. We just have to have that ability in order to fully protect the district and each of our sites.
Okay.
So
What I'm going to be requesting in our board report is I need very specific guidelines, because that really concerns me. And it's the liability to the district. Thank you.
Follow up on this.
Yes.
Well, actually, UCSD, I've worked for 27 years.
Mr. Gagnon, excuse me, just one moment, please. It's past 10 o'clock.
Move, we extend the time for conducting our business till 10:30.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right,
That's
please.
not a debatable motion, Madam Chair.
It's
The
not-
motion to extend debate or extend the time of the period of the
It's
meeting
not
is not
debatable.
debatable.
All right, we shall extend the motion.
And it requires a 2/3 vote.
We haven't voted.
Vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Take the 2/3 vote, so motion passes with one vote. I'm sorry, now you can continue.
Okay, well, UCSD and I think San Diego State has a similar policy, but their policy, at least I can speak for UCSD's policy because one of my roles was to administer student conduct, which oftentimes involved law enforcement and issues, etc. And that policy has a specific distance, and I think it's the mile enforcing that the UCSD police can enforce law within a mile of the campus, so that it removes the ambiguity as to what is near, and may respond to some of the questions that Trustee Salcido has. Now, in our case, we've got the main campus and we have the other facilities. So it is first better to have a defined limit so that everybody understands, especially the officers understand their role and responsibility. With respect, so that would be my first comment. And the second comment, with respect to your comment about there is a duty of sworn officers to not ignore an incident of violation of law, presumably state law, because the municipal code is, I assume you said that would be left up to the children's police. And if that's, first, did I understand you correctly to say that that's an existing obligation for sworn officers?
What I'm saying is that an officer, for instance, if it's a minor violation, an officer has the choice of whether to take action or not. What I'm talking about is that a police officer in the state of California, regardless of what agency they work for.
These are sworn officers.
Yes.
And Salvation College officers are sworn officers.
Yes, yes. Anyone that is a sworn officer under the police officer standards and training, which is state mandates, they have the right to enforce the law and the responsibility to enforce the law as they see is appropriate throughout the state and throughout this county. What I'm saying is that even, let's take San Diego State, if they have a 1 mile radius, that's for their regular patrol, that's what their chief wants them to do. If that particular officer is en route, say coming back from county jail, having booked a person there, and they see a critical incident occur or something that is significant, they would feel and probably would be required to take some action to stop that particular situation and control it until the agency of jurisdiction gets there. That's a responsibility for all police officers.
Okay, well, if that's already a responsibility under the current state law, why do we need to embed that into the Southwestern College policy?
I think it's probably because the education code mirrors that, but my personal philosophy is that our job...
Well, let me ask you, you know, I don't want to, I understand the job and that's not what I'm getting
No.
to. So if I could get the response from legal counsel.
Well, the question is, if it's in the ed code, why do we need to repeat it in policy?
If the existing law already requires sworn officers to enforce the law, critical, in their discretion, I assume it's the language.
Yes.
Why is it necessary, or why is it prudent then for Southwestern College to embed that in our own policy in this vague language?
What I suggested earlier was that I thought, just looking at the policy tonight, that there's an attempt actually to mirror the applicable ed code section, 7243. So do we have to repeat what's in ed code in our policy? Do we have to have a policy on it? You could say for many provisions that we have in policy, many provisions that we have in collective bargaining agreements, they are repeating the law, which in some cases is helpful.
But in this case, we have a very special situation that has lots of potential for liability and involving the college and some significant litigation. So I don't want to debate it here, so I would move that we table this policy to enable further clarification of the limits and to provide some clarity as to the instead of just having this ambiguous near the campus, to define actual limits and to clarify in our policy that there's recognition that state law requires sworn officers to enforce the law, etc. But to try to avoid putting in policy anything that would open up the college to the kind of expensive, complicated litigation involved in arrests or pursuits or incidents that are not directly related to the mission of the college.
Mrs. Saucedo?
Well, actually, there is a motion to table, and I
There's already a motion for acceptance, so.
Well,
Madam Chair, I think the motion is, a motion to postpone is the appropriate motion. The motion
I'm
to
sorry.
table would not be in order.
Motion to
Motion to postpone is, requires a second, and it is debatable on the merits of postponing only.
So
then let me
We
make a
can
motion to
debate, we
postpone.
second that? We can go into discussion.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
what about
after-
Why to postpone?
As to whether or not it's as to whether or not it's appropriate to postpone, that's, discussion has to be limited to that only.
Okay.
Uh,
I would second that.
Okay,
Okay.
so then, we can.
Well, I've already laid out why I think it's important that we postpone it.
And
Okay, there's a second on the motion.
Yeah.
I just want to go ahead and add that I understand what you're saying. I understand the code very well. But when I was a sworn officer with Imperial Beach Police Department, as well as when I was a sworn officer with the Sheriff's Department, that we had guidelines, and we were very specific as to where we can go, what we can do, when we can carry our gun, when we can patrol, what we couldn't do, and we couldn't stop. And as well as there's very strict guidelines with each of the police departments as to what their police officers can do. And so I think that this needs to be looked at again to be able to get further information, because I'm not comfortable with this. It just opens up the college to huge liability.
Mrs. Valladolid?
Yeah, I'm opposing postponing it. I mean, what we're looking at is a policy, and I see nothing wrong with the policy. I think maybe when we get to the procedures of the details, that's where we get into who do we do it to, how, or some of the more detailed information that I think Trustee Salcido and Nick are talking about. I remember recently when there was that fellow that was, I think he was across the, he was across the street at 7-Eleven, and he was stalking one of the
Madam Chair, the debate has to be only on whether or not the motion should be postponed.
So I would postponing it, I would move forward on adopting this resolution, so that's why I would be opposed.
Any other questions?
We're still on discussion.
Yes, we're still on discussion.
Why to postpone? I really see no reason to postpone this item. It's in line with Ed Code. It appears to me as an attempt to just embed that in our policies, since it mirrors Ed Code. I don't see any harm in it. I have a lot of comments about the other comments, but they're not appropriate right now.
Any other comments?
Well, again, given the potential for liability, I would ask if we
No.
at least have, if you would.
About why to postpone?
Yeah, right. That we would ask, that we allow ourselves times to have legal counsel review the liability implications of having this policy with the vague language and statute. And I also am loath to remind you that the board is not going to get into the discussion of development of the administrative regulations. So whatever it is that you want staff to do as the board, you need to provide that direction now. I, for one, do not want to get